was sometime around the fall of 2003. It was after August, because August is when I'd moved to Bowling Green. Went to up around Somerset to see my uncle, and spent the evening with him. And about 10:30, 11 at night, heading back to the house, and I got about a 2-hour drive going up the mountain. There's switchbacks, and you know, some of them switchbacks, you're going 10, 15 mile an hour, and the one I came to, I mean, you had to cut the wheel, made around the corner, and dude sitting right there on the side of the road. I mean, there's no question as to what it was, or uh, I don't know. It's just this great, big, hairy, red-looking dude. His eyes were, I mean, they were fire engine red, and you know, you could see his arm, his hand, long reddish hair. It was I don't know, it was a crazy sight. But I mean, I seen the full creature. It wasn't just a, you know, a shadowy figure. He was in my headlights, and probably one of the most terrifying moments of my life at the time. But when this dude looked at me, you know, it was like he stared through my soul. I don't know how to explain that really, but he just, uh, you know, obviously it didn't last very long. It seemed like an eternity, but you know, he's crouched there on the side of the road, and you're seeing something that's not supposed to exist. You know, makes all kinds of things go off in your head, but made for a pretty interesting ride, you know, next 2 hours on the way home.
Yeah.
But
You mentioned you're in a F-250.
F-250. He was crouched down on the side of the road on one knee. And when he was crouched down on his knee, he was looking at me eye level in the window of the truck. Like when I come around the corner, I had to like hit the brakes. I saw something, thought I was going to hit something. Well, you know, it didn't take long to, I guess, mash the throttle. It did feel like a little while there, but my truck couldn't have missed him by 2 feet max. You know, he was on the edge of the road.
Was he on the driver's side or
Passenger side of the road.
Passenger
Or
side.
passenger side of the truck, yes.
You're going about 10 miles an hour because it's the switchbacks.
Yes, I mean, I had to make a 90. Like, you had to cut the wheel to make the turn. And so, you know, it wasn't something like I was just flying by and happened to see something. I got a full, solid, several second look at this creature.
Did you stop the truck?
Absolutely not.
No. did you slow the truck down?
I did when I first come around the corner and saw something. You know, your first instinct is when you see something, you know, stop. You're not trying to hit something. But like I said, once you kind of see it, once he stared at me, I stared at him. I know the headlights were in his eyes, but man, I don't think they bothered him at all. I know he's looking at me, and I just got out of there. That's about all I could do. I wasn't going to hang around too long.
When you say it was crouched down on a knee, was it on one knee or two knees?
Best I can remember, I don't know if this is on video or not, but it was.
Hold on, let me see if I could zoom this back.
He was crouched down in this position right here, and I could see his left arm, his hand, and in this position, he was looking eye level at me through the window of the truck.
Okay. And then describe the eyes.
Just, I'd say 10 to 12 inches apart. Is
like demonstrate
something like that, you know, just bright red, fire engine red.
And then what about the face? Any details of the face?
To me, it didn't really have an ape-like face. It had more of like a human featured face. from what I can remember, the face, it had reddish hair on it. It wasn't, you know, the long red hair like his head, shoulders, and arms. It was like a shorter. I don't remember seeing a lot of skin or anything like that on the face.
Mm.
The thing that stands out to me the most is the eyes. It's
Yeah.
just something you can't forget.
How big were the eyes?
Boy, I mean, just probably a little smaller than golf ball size, I'd say, but maybe thereabouts. No, you know, then again, maybe it looked bigger, the eyes did, but that's kind of what I would say. I mean, just something like that.
Mhm.
Uh,
And can you recall the nose or the mouth?
like I said, the mouth seemed to be more of a. I think the nose was, from what I can remember, it was more of a flatter, wider nose, but it didn't really have an ape-like appearance. It was more of a, like the mouth and everything had more like human-like features, from you know, from what I could tell.
Yeah. Were the lips thin or fat?
I may lie to you if I'd answer that question because I don't know that I can tell you.
Okay, that's good. I'd
But
rather, yeah.
um, I just, to me, the whole thing looked covered in reddish hair. And as soon as I saw the face, it looked like more of a human face than an ape face, but obviously covered in the reddish hair and all that. Um, I knew it wasn't, but you know, humans ain't gonna have red eyes
Right.
that I can. I've never seen one, and I've never seen one that's crouched down on the side of the road and can still look in the side of my window.
You
So
mentioned you mentioned earlier about the hair on the face was it covered most of the face, but it was thinner than the rest of the body.
yes, yeah, well, or yeah, shorter. Like it wasn't like your long 6 8 inch hair he had hanging down off his arms and stuff. Um, but just kind of like a, I don't know how to explain it. Just looked maybe like somebody would have had a shorter haircut on their face, but
Mhm.
obviously I'm sure their face hair doesn't get, if they have face
Mhm.
hair, the length of their body, right?
Right.
But and I guess besides the eyes, the one thing that really did stand out to me was that left arm. When I come around that corner and seen that arm, I mean that was just a dead giveaway that, you know, this is, it's not a bear. It's not, you know, it had a hand, had fingers, had a bicep, and it was a pretty crazy sight, really. I
Yeah.
mean, it was. I'm glad I got to see it, but I'm not sure if I'd ever want to see one again.
Um, did it have a flat face or muzzle?
Flat face, more of a
Flat.
flat
Yeah,
face.
more
Yeah,
like a human,
yeah.
right?
It didn't have a muzzle at
Like
all.
a bear.
Yeah, no.
So you're 100% certain it's not a bear.
I mean, I didn't even consider a bear to be, you know, something that it could have been.
Right.
You know, it's had no features of a bear,
Right.
and I've never seen a bear with a hand or a
Right.
bicep.
Right. And you said
Yeah.
you hunted and fished most of your life.
Yes. Yes.
So,
I mean, I can't say that I've seen a bear when I've been hunting, but I've seen plenty of bears, you know, around zoos and that sort of thing. I've read about bears, know, you know, seen videos and pictures of bears my whole life. It wasn't a bear.
yeah.
Uh,
What
but
about the shape of the head? Because I never did ask you that before. Can you just recall the shape of the head? What did it look like?
hmm, I mean, all I can really tell you, it was more like a, uh, you know, human type of head. Now the hair, the red hair started at the top and come down the side, you know, down over his shoulders and everything. But um, as far as the shape, I mean, I don't really know what to tell you about that. Just
What I'm trying to figure out, some Bigfoot reports, the people describe a pointed head, a
mhm.
conical shaped head, a sagittal crest. But then other reports, they look more rounded. We get different types.
I don't
of shape.
recall seeing anything like sticking up or being like a pointy head. To me, it would have been more like, to me in reality, it was more like looking at an 8 foot tall or bigger, big old dude, right?
Mhm.
Had big biceps, but obviously, I've eh, the width of the shoulders and everything else. I mean, it couldn't have been human. But it obviously the features were more to me human like than ape like, really, from what I could see.
Right. You also mentioned earlier about the distance between the lip, the upper lip, and the nose. Because in our office, we had a Bigfoot, we have
Yes,
some Bigfoot sculptures, and you commented on the one.
the nose, like the nose on your sculpture there. I To me that actually looks familiar in my mind, but the area between the nose and the lips kind of gives it more of an ape like feature that I didn't see any of that. Uh, but then again, it was hard to look away from them eyes too for too long,
Right.
and I didn't hang around. But I don't really know how else to describe it.
Yeah. You also talked about, after seeing this, not telling many people at first.
Well, really, in 20 years, I've up until December of last year, which would have been 23. So really, that was 20 years later. In the first 20 years, I had one or two friends that I may have said something to, like, "Hey, I saw something I know I wasn't supposed to see, and it's not supposed to exist. I know what I saw." That was kind of reserved for a couple of my special buddies that weren't going to knock me too hard. They know who I am, and but outside of that, it was about 20 years until I told any of my family members about it. Uh, it's not something you really just go around and talk about every day, you know.
You also mentioned recently you're at a zoo
Mm-hmm.
with some of your family members, and you saw the gorillas, I guess,
Orangutan,
orangutan,
yeah,
and you brought it up briefly, jokingly or something, and just to kind of test the waters.
yeah, I did, and was kind of met with some funny looks, but that was about it. Uh, but I did tell him that day. I can't even remember the question that I was asked. I think my brother-in-law asked me a question. I can't remember exactly what he asked me. I told him, I said, uh, "Yeah, that orangutan ain't got nothing on, you know, Bigfoot," and it just, yeah, it was pretty funny to watch your face, but
Yeah,
we never did get into a big conversation with it.
right. Like I took it as you're kind of testing the waters a little bit to see if they're gonna ask you serious questions or laugh.
There was no laugh, uh, but yet I think you're kind of like they didn't know. Hey, when you got somebody telling you about something that you don't think is supposed to exist, it's hard to just how would you say, believe somebody, I guess.
Right.
But I can sit here and tell you I know exactly what I saw. There's not a question.
Compared to that orangutan in the zoo, was there anything about the orangutan that was similar to what you saw or different?
There is a similarity, and none of the features, but the one similarity I did see was the orangutan I saw did have some kind of long reddish hair, maybe, but it had no. It had, obviously it's got more of an ape-like face, right? To me, it was the face wasn't the same. The body is not the same. Uh, Nothing about the animal is really the same
Mm.
that I can recall.
Yeah. And I talked to you earlier about a sighting near here where the witness said it looked like it had hair similar to an Irish setter.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're like, wow, that's kind of what I
Yeah.
remember, the hair
Yeah.
hanging down.
You could definitely see the shape of the muscles in the arm, but yet it was covered in hair. And yeah, that Irish setter uh, uh, description
Mm.
that would really seem to fit. Uh, they kind of hung down below his arm, and you could tell it was it was hair. But I mean, the whole thing was covered in that same length hair, except for the face, pretty much.
Would you say it's more red or more brown?
More red.
More
More
reddish,
red. Yes.
but there's some brown in it, or just red?
It would. I mean, it was on the reddish
Red.
side of brown
Okay.
for sure.
Yeah, I got
Yeah.
you. Not bright red, but
No, I mean it wasn't fire engine red, but
yeah,
red.
red.
You
Yeah.
know.
And
Um,
you talked about the hand. Could you recall seeing fingernails or claws or anything like that?
really reliving the moment from what I can remember when I come around the corner. He's crouched down on a knee. First thing I see is the arm, and when I look at his, upper body, and as soon as I look at his head, that's about when we locked eyes, and I didn't get too many other details. I mean, that little moment in time seemed to last for an eternity, but it probably wasn't but a couple second or so,
Yeah.
Um, so I can't sit here and tell you about the fingernails and some of that because honestly, I'd probably be lying to you if I did.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's I appreciate that because I don't want you to embellish it, or I'm just trying to ask questions to see if there's anything else you remember. But I know the entire sighting was so quick,
Yeah,
and you locked eyes with it, so you're really focusing. You said earlier on the eyes.
yeah.
Um,
That's the eyes is something that every time I tell the story, it just the goosebumps come back, the hair stand up on my arm, my neck. I don't know how to describe that feeling, but it's like whatever that was, like it could just look straight through you.
yeah.
Uh, definitely, definitely have never seen anything like that before. Haven't seen one since. But what I saw that night, I'll never forget.
Yeah. Do you ever have nightmares about it?
No,
No.
no, I don't have nightmares about it. It's just generally when I talk about it, that's kind of, I mean, I get that feeling again, that same feeling I had when I first seen it right there on the side of the road. And I mean, that feeling did stick with me for the next 2 hours on the ride home.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, as far as nightmares and stuff, no, I
Yeah.
hadn't had any of that.
Yeah. Well, I don't think I have any other questions. I appreciate you sharing this because I
Yeah.
know you don't share with everybody. And I think by you sharing your story, when people watch it, more people come forward. As you'll see on my YouTube,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people, it's very emotional for them. It's traumatic sometimes. And um, you can tell that it's changed their lives.
It, it, it did, and that's something that I think I told him a while ago. That is actually a moment that I look back on and think that had something to do with where I'm at today. Because it is, you can't be that close to a creature of that size, something that's not supposed to exist, and it not cause you to think about some things.
Right.
Because here you are face to face with something that is supposed to be a joke, but I can promise you it's not a joke. But that's just my experience, I
Yeah.
guess.
Would you ever want to see one again?
maybe, but I don't really know. It would intrigue me.
Mhm.
And if I could actually know that, hey, you can see one from 200 yards out, yeah, I'd be cool with that.
Yeah.
But to be face to face with one again, no,
Yeah.
I don't think it would.
Yeah. You had enough.
It it's terrifying looking in her face. I mean, when you're looking in his face, that's to me it was terrifying.
Yeah. You mentioned the eyes like
Hmm.
looked into your soul.
Yeah,
Like you could tell that this was either a being or something intelligent or something from another world or something you mentioned earlier. You
yeah.
just had this
It
sense.
it's probably left me with more questions than answers, really. But at the
Yeah.
same time, yeah, I don't know. I mean, obviously, I saw it there in the flesh and blood, so I don't know.
So it's enough for you. You know it's real. You don't
Uh,
really,
I know I've seen one.
right. So you
You
know
know,
they exist for
yeah,
sure. Yeah.
um, yeah, without a doubt.
Yeah. All right. Was there anything else you want to add or?
I think that probably about
Yeah,
about got it.
I think we covered it all. I mean, I really appreciate you sharing this story.
Yeah, not a problem.
It's an incredible story. That area's got lots of sightings in that area
Yeah.
of where you saw this. And I'll get together with you, maybe look at a map tomorrow before you
Okay.
leave, see if we can kind of pinpoint the general area.
All right.
Because I,
Uh, I am trying to think. This uncle that I was telling you about, I may have spoke to him once in the last 16 years. Tonight's our 16th wedding, or yesterday was our 16th wedding anniversary. And I think last time I saw him was at my wedding. Um, Several years ago, he had called me. He after he'd moved to Wyoming, I guess he still had a little place over here, and he'd called me, wanted me to come up here and catch a cow for him, but I never did come up then. But outside of that, I'll have to see if I can find his address or his old address. Maybe I can call my mom in the morning and she might know what his old address was.
because this was near his where he lived.
Yes, yes,
It's very close to his
yeah.
address.
Um, I was actually before I even talk about the town. I know it was the Somerset area there, but let me get that address and because I'm pretty sure it was before. Yeah, I know it was before I got on the Parkway, so I wasn't that far from his house. Uh, yeah, I don't remember the road. I really don't. I
Mm,
mean,
that's okay.
but we can get it close.
Yeah, I'll just kind of get
Yeah.
with you and put a pin on the map.
But I will tell you this: if I ever travel that road again, I can. I don't care if it's daylight or dark. I'll be able to tell you exactly where it happened.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I bet. Maybe he's still there.
might be,
Lurking in the shadows.
might be.
All right. Well, thank you so
Yeah.
much. I really appreciate it.